Hello, good evening and welcome to Budget Model Railways. And tonight I wanted to talk about a subject which I guess is close to our heart, which is the cost of model railways. Now I need to say at the beginning that I know that might sound churlish for some of you because you're in parts of the world where model railways are really expensive or not even available, like India and Sri Lanka. But in the UK, price is an issue. Now interestingly, again, I know it's not in America, but that's for some of the reasons that I'll come across in a minute. But in the UK, price is a problem, and the reason I think it's a problem is because I think it stops people coming into the hobby. When Douglas first wanted to do model railways, I got hold of a Hornby brochure, took one look at the prices and said, no way. If he hadn't found eBay and we hadn't found second-hand shops like at Ticehurst and Eastbourne, we just simply could not do the hobby. With locos at £100, coaches at £40 each, buildings at £40 each for resin, it's simply too expensive. And I have a couple of particular beefs. If we take, for instance, the Hornby Railroad Starter Range, the things that are supposed to attract people to the hobby. If we look at, say, the four-wheel coach and the 040 loco, these have been produced for decades, and this is relevant because the cost of any of these products is high at the beginning. It's high upfront costs. Some of these moulds can cost £500,000 or more. So there's a lot of upfront cost, but that's factored in to be cleared within a number of years. And I doubt very much that Hornby haven't cleared the cost of those moulds decades ago. Now, anybody that knows anything much about injection moulding, especially when it's being done in China, where Hornby are, they will know that these moulds cost pence to actually produce the pieces. So there's no way that they can now be costing that much money. As an example of this, Hornby will sell you as a spare part the chassis and motor for an 040 for £13. They sell you the whole loco at £35. Now, there is no way in anybody's world that a plastic body can cost £22. I should imagine it's more like £2. And that's my problem with these entry-level pieces. Now, Hornby themselves, in fact, almost admit this, because when they sell you a train set, the component parts will come to nearly £100, and yet the train set is £50. Now, I don't know of a retailer or a manufacturer who will sell products at a loss as a matter of course. So that gives you an idea of what those products should cost. Now, interestingly, Hornby and also some of the discount retailers will often retail those 040s at £25 or £20. Now, again, unless that retailer or Hornby are making a loss, which is unlikely, that's much nearer the true cost. And I would hazard a guess that those 040 locos could be retailed for as little as £10 or £15. Take a look at the four-wheel coach. Same issue again. Been around for 20 or more years. Costs must have been covered a long time ago. It's 3 bits of moulded plastic and 4 or 5 bits of metal. Produced in China, there's no way that the retail price of that should be £17. Hornby themselves retail 2 coaches for £21, which means that 11 is nearer, and I suspect that £5 is much nearer the cost of those as from a retail point of view. The reason this is important is because this is how people come into the hobby. They start with a train set or an entry level. As soon as they want to expand, it gets more expensive. So even if they've had a £50 train set at half price, they've now got to buy additional parts. And I simply can't agree that these trains need to be that price. Take a look at Hornby as well. They've just done this new children's train. Now that's got a plastic body and a motor and so on. They must have paid to make that mould, and yet it's £38. I also, from Hornby, i.e. Lima, bought last year an Italian Bobo diesel, brand new, for £31. Okay, it hasn't got DCC, but a lot of us don't want that and the starter sets don't have it. But it had got directional lights and it was £31. So why can't Hornby release the old Lima Class 33 and 55 around the £30 mark? Their new Deltic, which is in fact the old Lima model, is nearly £100. That can't be right. And this is dissuading people from coming into the hobby. Those prices need to be lower. Now they will tell you that they can't sell very many, but you don't know. If they were half the price, they would sell more. I believe this is the situation with some models in the States, where a decent Bobo is the equivalent of £40 or £50 because they can sell lots. But the English market could be as good. I would hazard a guess that if they did a Class 33 for £30, they would sell thousands of them because I think most enthusiasts would buy them. Instead of which, it will be 80 or 100. And this is what stops people coming into the hobby. Now, what some people will say is, well, what about the more high fidelity stuff, the new locos, the finer quality? Well, firstly, I don't think they all have to be DCC. I think a great many of us are happy running DC. That would bring the cost down a little. And I accept that with such high moulding costs, and they think they're only going to sell 500, they've got to put the price there. But again, we've seen this in a number of trades. I saw it some years ago with clothing in the equestrian trade, where the manufacturers only produced what they'd taken orders for, and that restricts the potential market. The manufacturers and the retailers are happy. They said 500, they've sold 500. And in fact, you look, every time a new limited edition model comes out, they don't even get to the shops. They're sold by pre-orders. That tells you there's a bigger market there than they thought. They could probably have sold twice as many, which would have brought the price down. It's just that nobody wants to take a gamble. But I imagine they could sell, especially in a worldwide market. So even when you've got the high quality items, there should be a way of bringing that price down. And this is the issue. If people can't come into the hobby, then they won't. Now, at the moment, everybody's happy because the market they're aiming at is the older market. And even our own demographics for our YouTube, I believe it's something like 40% are over 60 and 60% are over 50. And that's fine at the moment. There's a lot of 60 or 17-year-olds out there who retired on full pensions at 55 and probably carried on working. So they have a high disposable income. Their children left home younger and they're not having to support them. And that's why Hornby and Bachmann and so on are aiming at that market. They have the money, the grey pound. But the problem is, guys, that some of us are 50. We won't be retiring now until we're 67. We won't be retiring on full pensions. We had children later, so those children will be with us until we're in our 60s. Hello. So we will not have had, that's my son saying hello. He doesn't know I'm going to change the locks when he's 18. The point is that we will not be in that position. So Hornby and Bachmann and so on are catering for a naturally shrinking market. It is literally, no offence to anybody, dying out. And they will not be replaced by people. They won't be replaced, A, because the hobby's too expensive to come into, unnecessarily so, and B, because we simply don't have that disposable income. There's a rake of, I believe they're called birdcage coaches that have been released. You need all three to be correct, and they're £30 each. The loco to go with them is £180. You're talking about getting on for £300 for 3 coaches and a loco. That's no way to approach anybody into the hobby. I also struggle when I saw the other day a garden railway loco, one of the nice LGB ones. And that was a huge O-gauge garden gauge diesel loco for £500. If you can produce that for £500, why is a quarter of the size, a tenth of the size loco £300? Something's not right here. And I think somewhere along the line, particularly the entry-level models, need to be a lot cheaper. As I say, the manufacturers themselves know that can be done because when they release the Christmas sets and the train sets and the special edition or the multi-packs, the price comes down. There's no way that retailers or suppliers are not making money on these. And I would be very surprised if the Hornby 040 loco couldn't be retailed for £10 and the coaches and the wagons for £5. Even Oxford Rail now are managing to do new wagons for £10, which is substantially cheaper than the Hornby. Although I've heard a whisper that Oxford Rail and Hornby have done some kind of tie-up, so let's see what happens there. So this is an interesting subject. I'm sure lots of you have got views. I'm sure that people will have different views, and certainly, as we found with our recent video on 3-in-1 oil and WD-40, people have strong views. If you are going to comment, please comment from something you know about. What we're trying to remove here is, if you like, opinions or views that are not based on reality. If somebody's knows better than me about production costs, I'd like to hear it. But I imagine a lot of you, like me, are bemused about why these models are the price they are. I'll go back to what I said just now. Think of that Hornby 4-wheel coach. It's 2 bits of moulded plastic for the body, and it's 2 bits of plastic for the chassis, and half a dozen bits of metal for the wheels and the couplings. They're produced in China. I've worked for a company which had plastic items produced in China, and they get knocked out for pence. And before anybody says, what about shipping costs? That's the cost to us in the UK after shipping. So I find it difficult to understand why they have to be £17 each. Production costs were covered a long, long time ago, and those items must be bought in huge quantities. The newer stuff, I accept, might need to be expensive, but I still feel they could be produced in bigger quantities for lower prices, and in any case, they're catering for a market that's no longer there. This is a great hobby, and if it's going to have a future, it's got to attract more people. And if it's going to attract new people, it's got to do it cheaper. And I'll just say that one thing again. Look at that new Hornby children's train set, the one with the red and white train that runs around the plastic track. It's £38. Imagine if that effort and budget had been put into re-releasing the old Lima re-engined Hornby Class 33 for £30. How many of you would have rushed out to buy one or two of those? So where does this £500,000 unit marks come from? I suspect 2,000 or 3,000 of those would be sold. Anyway, I'd really like to hear your views. Thank you for listening to me rant. Sometimes it's good to get these things off your chest. And let me know what you think. Thank you for listening. Hi, thanks for watching the video and for the nice comments. Click on the left for a previous video in this series. Click on the right for another video you might enjoy. And please don't forget to click to subscribe, like, comment, etc. Thanks again.